Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Prismata. We'll jump in the queue here, and then go watch the game that is currently live. Sun Happy versus Unknown. Rank 100 versus Unknown, who's like somebody's Smurf and very highly ranked. There was some talk in the Discord a little while ago about like who this person is, and apparently there are some people who know, but they don't include me. Oh well. What's going on here? It sure seems like Unknown is winning. More drones, more damage. Less red? But that doesn't seem terribly important. Yeah. This game's gonna be over in a minute. And then I'll be matched with whoever joins the queue first, I guess. My bet is it's Unknown. No, Sun Happy got there. That was quick. Alright, well, base plus 5, 45 seconds versus Sun Happy. What do you do here? There's not really anything to rush with, and so something kind of slower makes sense. Zatron is a defender that supports that idea, and so is Omega, sort of. All of that also suggests a Reservoir, like a slow game. You kind of are happy to wait for a while and then build Reservoir. But I just don't like. I don't see much here enabling you to actually build the Reservoir. Like, isn't that gonna have trouble against someone who just like gets Omegas and Manticores, maybe? I'm not sure. You probably want to get green for Zatron even in the blue approach. But I don't think you want red. There's just not enough defense here to justify like triple blue and also red and also enough green to get Zatron. Wow, I'm actually really surprised to see opponent not going third engineer. What's the plan there? I think, I mean, you might be going for some like red-green with Reservoir and Fibroids? Maybe you just think it's really important to get green out? I don't, though. I still think I want the Engineer. Then I'll pick up a Conduit, and then like it just sort of curves out reasonably well, I think. To get like a Blast Forge and then a Splitter and then like a Manticore hopefully, and then not too long from then we can start getting Omegas. Okay, so opponent is going to just try Manticore for their econ. That's fine, I guess. They'll get a free pot shot with the Splitter. And a relatively painless Manticore conversion because I won't be threatening any attack. That's kind of cool. Well, against that, maybe it's more important to get the Zatron down in a hurry. Because I won't be able to absorb anyway against Manticores. And Zatron doesn't mind being exploited a bit. I think that is a good idea. I don't know, the more I do this, the more it feels like I'm actually just going for Reservoir. I'm gonna have so much green now. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Opponent's just gonna get Omegas and kill me, I guess. That's That's sort of a problem with this line, you know, when you've put it in such stark terms, I guess. I feel pretty directionless this game. What I'm doing doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense. I think opponent did quite well to get Manticores first. So I'm planning a Zatron next turn. But what else? Like this? So I can like splitter Zatron? I kind of want just like red? Because I'm going to want it eventually anyway. This is exactly 2 Tarsiers plus Zatron, which I think defends. Yeah, it does. I don't know, this feels pretty dumb. But like I have Fibroids as soak, which is kind of cool for me. I don't want it right now, obviously, but... And I can start buying walls as well. Because I kind of just want to survive until the Reservoir lives, like, is good. I don't know exactly what I'm saying. Until the Reservoir arrives to carry, basically. And so to that end, I think I want a lot of drones still. But obviously, like, them getting these super cheap Manticores is pretty cool for them. Although I might have considered just picking up an Omega already. To kind of have more... Well, I don't know. I was going to say they don't need to spend their gold or their tech cheaply because they have so much gold compared to tech, but they don't really. They're floating a bunch of green and they're perfectly happy to dump that into Gauss Cannons later, which means you want to spend your blue as cheaply as possible. I mean, this is technically defended, but I'd like to over-defend by 5, which is this, and now I can get Zatron to heal. Here's their first Omega. Sure. Into my, what, 4 attack? Seems okay. If I absorb on wall, they can, like, pseudo-exploit Zatron by holding Omega and clicking all the Manticores. I don't know how great that would be, but it's an option they have. I mean, the Zatron would get up to like 12 in that case. I don't know. I don't think it would be too bad. I think I'm happy with this. Maybe the second blue is too optimistic. Can I really get a Manticore? I don't think so. I don't think I need all that green right now. I'm accumulating quite enough, I think. I'm going to have a little extra tempo next turn because I can hold back the splitter, and they're probably holding back Omega, so I don't think this drone needs to be an NG. I think they should hold back Omega. I guess they're worried that if I live to Reservoir, they just lose, maybe? I don't understand. I'm doing exactly 5 damage. Wouldn't you like to absorb that? I know, like, okay. Clicking Omega does 3 extra damage to me. Holding it restores 3 extra health for them, so it's sort of like a trade-off. But holding the Omega means... Well, actually, they have enough defensive tempo that they can build a wall anyway, so maybe it is pretty even for them. As long as they start holding Omega, like, next turn or something. I guess I did want an NG, so I didn't have to get this Fibroid. And then next turn I want a ton of force fields. 7 is probably enough. How's my NG supply? Should I be getting another wall or another forge for more walls instead? I think my NG supply is actually in more danger than wall supply, so I'm going to do this even though it's like typically not very good to do so. And I have a sizable amount of threat even before the Reservoir hits, so they might not be able to click everything and add another Omega so easily. This is over defended by enough to get Zatron healing. Good. Inducing some force fields here. Sure. Okay, it's pretty cool. It's suddenly a lot of attack. No, no way. If you want to buy another Omega, you have to at least hold one back. Maybe you could click a Manticore to let you buy 2 more force fields. That's still not enough. You have to hold an Omega, I think. Or stop buying Omegas. I think you should hold one, though. I don't know, maybe it's important to pressure my defenses so that I have to start losing force fields? Who knows? Eight, 11, 14. So I do have to lose at least 1 attack. There's that. But I'll probably lose the Fibroid instead. So now this is 4, 10, 13, 15. I don't think I want to spend this red. I don't think the game's going to last long enough that another conduit is good. I think I'm going to break him soon or else lose. So this is plenty. Is there any way I could over-defend the Zatron? Like, this is 8. Not really. I could do this, though, right? Get another Fibroid for less force fields? No, that's silly. No, you have to start holding Omegas. You cannot not do... Well, you could click Manticore to buy force fields. Oh, does this actually do it? I see. You just cut a wall to build more force fields. Sure. Four, 10, 12. Okay, seems good. Come at me. I like how this game looks, I have to say. This giant pile of force fields is doing a lot of work. I don't really understand why this has worked out so well. It felt like opponent was getting so much attack so early that I was going to have trouble, but suddenly somehow I didn't, and then the Reservoir was there. I don't know, a mystery. I mean, in principle, I could still lose this, but I don't think I will. Not with this Rhino as like an extra chunk of health for next turn even. And them basically unable to defend. I think we kill Omegas? Kill these guys. 4, 7, 10, 13. Yeah. What an odd one. I mean, I guess this is evidence that I don't really understand Reservoir. Because it didn't... Like, it seemed like Reservoir might be a good idea, but there wasn't enough here to really convince me. And then it started to feel like opponent with all their cool blue stuff was just putting way too much pressure on me, but then I won. And I think if I understood the unit, I wouldn't feel so mystified when it did something. I don't know, maybe it's like, well, no, opponent... I thought maybe it was because opponent skipped third NG, but I think this was, like, with Manticores, especially as player 1, and especially against an opponent who isn't making you defend, there's a very good, like, Manticore into... or splitters into Manticore for your econ kind of line, right? The problem... I often try to do such a thing, and then, like, when my opponent attacks me, I suddenly am like, wait a minute, I can't build a Manticore because that costs 2 blue and consumes my only absorber. And so, like, it doesn't ever work out. But if your opponent isn't attacking, this is, like, great. I think they should have tried to do more absorb denial even against Zatron. Like, I don't know, the Zatron health is good, but I would sort sort of eventually have more than I want if you just didn't attack the Zatron. And in the meantime, you could be getting money from your Manticores. This is like, when you want to get Omegas and Manticores, it's a set where you want a lot of money per turn, and your Manticores could be giving you money instead of taking away my Zatron health. I think that would have been an improvement. And I think maybe waited a little bit too long before getting the first Omega. I'm not sure. The first Omega actually arrived pretty well. Like, I had exactly 5 attack. I think they made, as I said during the game, a mistake by holding back, by clicking the Omegas every turn instead of holding them. I'm not sure if that was because of like a general misunderstanding of when that trade-off is good, or whether it was because they actually thought about it and said, look, I need to pressure him off of this Reservoir. And therefore, you know, trading health is good, even if, like, when one player has the Reservoir, the other player is typically the aggressor. It's such a value unit that takes such a long time that if your opponent has one and you don't, you really need to stop them from getting it to do good stuff. And that's often possible. I'm not saying like Reservoir is like game winning in all sets or whatever, but like if you leave them alone, they're gonna beat you with green. Because being able to buy an attacker and sell your drones for like 1 and a green is, well, it's buying an attacker for 1 plus a green plus a drone, of course, obviously. But it's late enough in the game that you don't want to buy drones, so the privilege of selling them to buy discounted attackers, right? Even if you imagine that a drone is actually worth $3 at this point in the game, a force field still only costs 4 and a green. And that's like less than a Tarsier. Well, about the same, but without the build time. And add on top of that you get to sell your drone to make that purchase. It's like superb, right? So that's why you can't just let your opponent Reservoir you. All this crazy stuff you're buying, like this cool stuff, it's going to get outvalued by Reservoir if you can't kill them in time. And so that's why I think my opponent might have been right to be clicking the Omegas, even though it feels bad to me. I was really surprised by how well Fibroid did in this game. It's like, it seemed like it might be good as like a red-green sync that's also Soak to keep the Reservoir alive and prepare me for Reservoir. You know, Soak that pairs well with Zatron's Absorb and so on. But it really did a much better job than I had any right to expect of providing like Burst Soak to let me keep Zatron alive, and Threat Soak to prevent opponent from attacking too much or building too many more attackers. I think they maybe gave the Fibroids a little too much respect, because I don't think I can really sack my Zatron to absorb on a Fibroid pretty much ever this game. But maybe if it were reaching an Omega, I could try it. I don't know. And I don't know. Just like, also like when you're getting Reservoir, you want a lot of conduits, and that's the thing that I often like put off. Is I say, you know what? Well, let me first say, a lot of newer players or players who are inexperienced with Reservoir buy extra conduits way too soon, the same way that they do for Zatron, Zamora. And it's nice to be accumulating a little bit of green, but ideally you'd be spending that green to do something useful until like right at the last moment, and then you'd have a bunch, like just the right amount. The longer you accumulate this, the worse its value is, because it's not getting compound interest like drones are. And so, however, like having 2 Conduits actually seemed about fine, and it was nice that like picking up Zatron got me that without me having to like actually do it on purpose, because I probably would have messed it up. It made it pretty convenient to just pick up whatever number of fibroids I needed on a given turn and still accumulate some green for force fields. And then I threw this in because I figured I'm going to want to build a lot of force fields and also a lot of fibroids once the reservoir hits. And I don't know, my defensive supplies were a serious concern, by the way. Like, I was quite close to running out of stuff to buy, running out of soak. I guess this is actually a good point, is how many fibroids did I buy, right? By the end of the game, I bought 7 fibroids. That's 14 health. I don't have 14 health left of other absorbers or other soak, right? So if fibroid hadn't been in the set, even if I had arranged my economy and my tech differently to be able to buy walls and engies instead, I mean, A, that's not very efficient, so it would have cost me more, but B, even if I could have afforded it all, I just would have run out and had to start like soaking force fields. You know, maybe I could have like gotten rhinos involved, like if I had gotten fewer tarsiers and started the rhinos sooner. The rhinos could attack and then defend, and they could soak in that way. But that's a lot harder. And it means I would like lose the value of the like buying fibroids at the last minute versus buying rhinos 2 turns in advance, or 3 depending on how you count. Makes it a lot more expensive. And here I had green aplenty. Like, I would have been happy to build more force fields, but just building fibroids to keep the force fields I already have alive was fine. So I didn't mind spending green on it, which makes this a much cheaper Rhino alike that you can actually build prompt and feel okay about it. Unlike Rhino, where you really want to buy it early. I don't know. Still like a kind of a mystery though. Why did I not crumble faster? Why did they crumble so quickly? I guess if I had to make an estimate, I would say it's the Zatron, right? I was absorbing for at least 4 every turn, and some turns 6 when I absorbed on wall and healed with Zatron. Whereas they were just absorbing for 2 every turn because they were clicking their Omega. Holding the Omega, of course, would have made them absorb for 5, even more than me. But it would have given me 3 more health, so it would be about the same. Whereas Zatron was just like generating value passively for free in addition to my other absorb. So maybe they could have gotten a Zatron at some point. I noticed they picked up green and like never did anything with it until they started force fielding. That seems pretty not great. A conduit that you sit on for a long time and then build force fields with is maybe not ideal. I was thinking around this point that like, shouldn't they be buying Gauss cannons? You remember I talked about like, why are they're just still getting Manticores? And I was like, yeah, that's good actually, because they should be buying Gauss cannons. But they weren't. They were buying drones, right? So I think maybe needed to frame themselves as the aggressor against my force fields, or my reservoir, and buy Gauss cannons a lot sooner would have been maybe an okay approach. But they have so few drones. They can't do that and also buy the Omegas that this whole thing was built around. I don't know. You could click Manticore, but then you're not aggressing, right? How many drones did we each buy by the end of the game? I bought 6 more. That's something. Of course, I also bought more force fields. But not by a lot, actually. Just 4. Yeah, so opponent actually bought like 8 force fields and lost them. Whereas I bought 12 force fields and kept them. Which is pretty, like, wow. I don't know. It's a mystery. Like, the Tarsiers seemed kind of crappy. My Manticore seemed not great. Well, actually, the Manticore was pretty cool. I built the second blue thinking I was going to want a lot of walls, but because of my Zatron tempo turn, I actually had time to get a Manticore first and then a bunch of walls, which is really great. I should have planned that, but it just sort of lucked into it. I don't know. Zatron did great work. And so did the Reservoir. So here's, I guess, a base +5 set where both players saw the set completely differently, right? I went for one thing, and he went for the other, and like, okay, I picked up one Manticore, but I think my build would have been just fine without it. I don't know, people say base +5 is boring, but this was pretty cool. I didn't really know what to do, and I did a thing, and it worked out alright. And, I mean, no one's ever sad about a win, right? I don't know, sometimes I'm sad about a win when I know I played it badly, but I got lucky. Oh well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.